Here we have a Cisco 2600XM series router, and this particular unit is a 2651XM. The 2651XM slots towards the top of the 2600XM series of routers and comes fully equipped with 256 megabytes of RAM out of a possible 256 megabytes, and it has 32 megabytes of flash, which can be upgraded to 48 megabytes. All of this gives the 2651XM a maximum processing ability of 40,000 packets per second. However, all the Cisco 2600XM routers are now end of life and really are only useful for studying for your Cisco certifications. Even then, you may prefer to use GNS3 or Cisco's Packet Tracer, which is more flexible and tends to be faster. Since we have the physical 2600XM router in front of us, let's go ahead and check out the functionality all the way on the rear. From left to right, I'll go over the different expansion slots and ports. So all the way on the left, we have a network module, and it's currently got a slot cover over top of it. Then these blank things up here are the WIC slots, which stands for WAN Interface Card. For the 2600XM routers, this typically was used for adding serial functionality. And below the WIC slots, we have our Fast Ethernet 1, Fast Ethernet 0, then the console and the auxiliary port. Then we have our power switch, and then finally the power supply. If we remove the 4 screws located at the top and rear of the unit, we can completely open it. And inside we can see the network module area, then the 2 WIC slot areas. Then we have something called an AIM slot, which is an advanced integration module, again intended to add advanced functionality to the router. Then we have our 128 megabyte sticks of RAM for a total of 256 megabytes. And finally, we have our 32 megabytes of flash right here. To connect to any Cisco networking equipment, you need something called a rolled cable or a rollover cable. These cables are usually light blue, and the console port label somewhere down here is also light blue to remind you to use a rollover cable. They're called a rollover cable because if you can envision the pin out, so if we have the pins 1 through 8 for each end of the cable, so we've got one end and the other end, a straight through cable would have pin 1 connected to pin 1, pin 2 connected to pin 2, and pin 3 connected to pin 3, etc. But a rollover cable does something different, and it connects pin 1 to pin 8, pin 2 to pin 7, pin 3 to pin 6, etc. And then you get sort of a crossover shape, and that's why it's called a rolled cable, because it kind of rolled the pins over on one another, if that sort of makes sense. The RJ45 end connects to the console port on the back of the unit, and the serial port end connects to your PC. Unfortunately, the serial port has sort of gone by the wayside, so you will likely be using a USB adapter rather than a hardware serial port. I tend to use my Dell D620 Latitude laptop, which is one of the last laptops that actually included a hardware serial port. That does it for the Cisco 2600XM series of router overview, and I hope you learned something, and I wish you luck with your Cisco studies.